Welcome to Open Book with Susan Baier, where we get to know our local leaders and connect with the people behind the titles. I'm your host, Susan Baier. I'm the Executive Director of the Allen County Public Library, and we are coming to you from Studio B in Access Fort Wayne at the main library in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne. And I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have today because our first guest is someone that I serve with on the Visit Fort Wayne board, and I've always wanted to get to know her a little better, so I thought, what is a better way to get to know somebody than to create a talk show and have her as my first guest? So, welcome, Allen County Commissioner of the 2nd District, Therese Brown.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Susan.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation and to get to know you a little better.
I am getting to know you as well.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
So you were first elected to the 2nd District position in November of 2010.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And you were reelected to a 4th term in 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Could you tell us a little about your background and experience before you became an elected official with the County Commission?
Well, this is going to be a good story.
I love a good story.
I started with Allen County in 1978, literally 6 months out of being out of high school, graduating from Bishop Dwenger High School. So I worked in the treasurer's office for a few years. Then I moved into the auditor's office, performing a sundry of functions. Became chief deputy auditor in 1992, and then ran for auditor in 1994. So I was the auditor for 2 terms, 2 constitutional terms. You can't run more than twice consecutively. And then after being auditor, leaving that, I became clerk of the Allen Circuit and Superior Court in 2003. And then in 2010, as you mentioned, I ran for county commissioner.
Fantastic. So I think something that not everybody knows about being a county commissioner that I find really interesting, besides being a county commissioner, that requires you to serve on certain boards.
Yes, ma'am.
And I wondered, with all of those other extracurriculars that you get to do, what is something that has really fascinated you that you've learned about another kind of industry that you just didn't know before?
I think first and foremost, the one thing that really stood out early on was Plan Commission. And that way, that serving on that board statutorily and constitutionally, it gives you the ability to see things as they're just coming to fruition in someone's mind, and then walking through the process. And then when you become county, as it comes to the commissioners to be rezoned, if it's, for instance, a rezoning, you then you become able to participate in the economic impact of those particular projects. So not just residential or just, I shouldn't say just, but commercial, strip malls or anything like that, but the likes of a Google or the Walmart milk plant. Those types of things where you start to really see all the different things that kind of become all of the components to see it come from the ground up.
Yeah, you see the moving parts
all
come
the
together
moving
and
parts.
form a vision.
Yep.
That's really
Absolutely.
exciting. So speaking of projects, what projects are you and the commission working on now that you're really excited about?
Projects might be not quite the right word, but working through fire districts. In and of itself, it's a project because it's taking what people have been used to in their community, and Allen County does not run fire. I mean, that is not one of our charges statutorily, but we are, as the chief officer of the executive officer of the county, our function is to help assist those areas in unincorporated Allen County. So you have 20 townships in Allen County, some of which are incorporated within the city of Fort Wayne and have city fire, city police, etc. But areas where out in, say, Arcola, for instance, there's a volunteer fire department and volunteers that support that and the community that supports it. And you don't have quite the tax revenue to be able to take care of the citizens. And as we all know, Allen County, Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana is growing. And with the number of individuals and housing starts that are happening, we need to make sure that all of those safety opportunities are there for the individuals that are building homes and starting businesses. So we created 3 districts and converted a district into a fire territory into a district, and are looking at creating a countywide fire district to equal out all of the sundry tax rates as well as the service level to maintain it equally for fire and EMS. So it's been an interesting education. We're one of the first counties in the state of Indiana to take it to this level. So it's all a learning experience. You know, a lot of people don't like their taxes being raised, and I totally understand that. I'm a taxpayer. But ultimately, you need to make sure you have sufficient funds to be able to support the things that we have an expectation for when we dial 911. So that's one of the biggest things we're really working on right now.
This is so important to hear because as someone like myself, I really enjoy looking at government and following politics, and we have some big national races going on right now, and of course that's really interesting and important to be engaged with, and also like the real day-to-day life and death decisions of an everyday citizen, they're happening at this local county level.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
they're happening at our level, and we take it very seriously, even if we're not directly involved in the day-to-day function of it. We want to be a resource for those entities. No different than if it has anything to do with whether it's Huntertown, Monroeville, Woodburn, New Haven, any of our communities that are around us, and Fort Wayne included. We have been a partner when it comes to economic development, and when we were all unfortunately having to go through COVID, but also then being able to be awarded the amount of monies between all of us to be able to utilize federal funds, the ARPA funds, American Rescue Package. We were able to do some things that were going to make better for the citizens of all of our counties. So, you know, we've done water projects, we're doing drainage. I know it doesn't probably sound sexy at all, but we're doing a lot of reconstruction of drains through those dollars that the constituency would never be able to afford. And you know, we don't want people to flood. We want things to be taken care of. And when you get that type of thing in your hands, you want to use it very cautiously, judiciously, and very appropriately to make sure you're getting the best bang for the community.
Yeah, drainage doesn't sound glamorous until you don't have it.
Oh, absolutely
Then it's a real problem. Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah. You are on a committee that also our Director of Special Collections, Kurt Witcher, is on, and is the Allen County Bicentennial Committee. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you have planned there.
Well, for those individuals that don't know, this is our 200th anniversary of being a county in the state of Indiana. April 1st, I don't know if our founding fathers had a sense of humor, but you know, April 1st, April Fool's Day was our birthday. And so all year we're doing all kinds of things throughout the county to commemorate our birthday. So we've got sculptures. I know that was one of your questions.
Yeah.
So several of our communities are going to be benefited, sculptures that funds needed to be raised for that. In their communities, I am Allen. And ironically, it's basically the state of Indiana, and you're Allen. So, I mean, if anybody really wants to get into the weeds of the bicentennial, we have a link on our webpage for that. But we have a lot of different juried artists that have been picked to paint these sculptures. So when they start popping up, we'll let you know when they pop up, and please go see them, take pictures with them. We think that's going to be a really great opportunity for people to kind of get engaged in the community.
And they'll be all throughout the county, right?
All throughout the county, and there's supposed to be, I believe, a narrative that will be associated as to what that, the art is to represent, but also it's to reflect the community that it's in. So I'm kind of looking forward to some of those narratives. We do have a commemorative wine.
Really?
Yes,
I did not know this.
Yes.
Breaking news here.
Breaking news
on our TV show.
At Country Heritage. So we have a bicentennial wine. So yes, limited quantity. So if you're interested and like wine, please feel free to go out there and get yourself a bottle of wine at Country Heritage.
Do we know if it's a cab, if it's a Chardonnay?
It kind of leans a little more on the sweeter white, if you will. I'm more of a Chardonnay, but you know, it's okay.
That's really exciting.
It tasted very well. You know, it was fun going to the tasting and picking out the appropriate wine.
That is a perk of being on the committee, I would think. Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, and you know, we have a bash that we're having towards the end of the year in November that is going to be at the Memorial Coliseum. So it's just going to be a lot of interesting things. We have a flag that we're going to be, hopefully here in the next few months, going to be able to unveil what that flag is, because Allen County doesn't have a flag.
I was so surprised when I found that out.
I agree. We have a flag, but I thought, that's okay. No, We don't have an official flag, so we will be adopting a new flag.
will
So
now.
no, there's a lot of interesting things. If you go out to the website, you'll be able to see that.
Fun times. Speaking of fun,
Uh-oh.
what's fun about your job? Besides wine tasting, that sounds really fun.
What's fun about my job? There's a lot of interesting people in our community.
Yeah.
So you never know every day. You know, you may have meetings that are standard meetings, but there can be those random opportunities to meet people. You mentioned community engagement relative to, you know, economic development. So there's a lot of different things when people come in and they're recognizing that Allen County, we're like the silent partner. So when they come in and they're wanting to understand us, they're wanting to have our participation in something, you get to meet a lot of interesting people. So yeah, it's a little eclectic on occasion, but yeah, it's fun.
I love that you use the word eclectic because I think eclectic applies to government work, and I think that's why I've enjoyed it because libraries are government, much to some people's surprise. And I've only done libraries my entire adult career, and I really feel passionately about government being a tool for good. And I wondered what your thoughts were about what good government looks like.
Good government is, honestly, it's about the people and making sure that whatever the task or function is that you're performing at whatever level that you're performing it at, is that you're keeping in mind not only who is paying you, because you're a constituent as well. I mean, we're all constituents within the system, but that you're keeping in mind that everybody doesn't have quite the level of understanding of the process or the functions or whatever they may be, and to be compassionate, understanding, and empathetic. You never know what, you know, when you're going to be in a situation, no matter what other line of work that you may engage or have to interact with, you would expect the same. So we need to be very thoughtful about what we do and how we do it.
I agree. I agree. So I mentioned in our intro that we serve on the Visit Fort Wayne board together, and with all of my extracurriculars, that is one that I find just the most fun. I learn so much. I get to be around people from completely different industry and fields and just really enjoy hearing from them. So I have a few Visit Fort Wayne-y kind of questions for you. Okay. If you are hosting out-of-town guests for the weekend, what's your itinerary? What are you showing them in Allen County and Fort Wayne?
Oh, I would suspect, one, it would depend on the time of year,
Fair,
of course.
fair. Yes.
So with that kind of thrown out there, I mean, if it was Christmas time or Thanksgiving, of course, coming down to see Santa get lit. I mean, that's, since my children were wee high to a gnat, that we would come down and still do.
You and a few 10,000 of your closest
Oh,
friends.
yeah. Well, and back in the day, it wasn't that well attended because it was pretty much only Santa. But, you know, I mean, it's just the hustle and bustle of all of that. What else would I say? I mean, going to Grable, checking out Grable Days. Now, granted, they didn't have a Grable Days this year, but, you know, it makes you want more. Johnny Appleseed. Love Johnny Appleseed. Three Rivers Festival, most of the time. You know, it just depends. Whatever the individual might be interested in, of course. And then I know one of the other questions you had is eating.
Yes,
so
one of my favorite
I would
topics.
venture places to go to eat and experience. Well, Ted's Beer Hall is a nice one. It's kind of fun, eclectic. You know, Thursdays is Food Truck Thursday. So you get to see a lot of different people, little kids running around, things like that. Proximo. Love Proximo. Caesar salad, chicken Caesar salad. We were just talking about this before the show started.
Yeah.
Very good.
Guava salmon for me.
There you go. It's just kind of, you've got your go-to. The Hoppy Gnome, very good. Cosmos for breakfast. That assumes we don't end up in a food coma and then we can't go anywhere else. But of course, you know, working off that, it would be probably going to the children's zoo.
The zoo is phenomenal.
It
and
is.
It's a children's zoo, but I go as a grown adult without children and have an amazing time. My sister-in-law was visiting a few weeks ago from St. Louis, and I was playing tour guide, and she's a big zoo girl, and she was just blown away that a zoo of that caliber is in Fort Wayne.
Oh, it's an amazing zoo. And again, if speaking of my children, they're a lot older now, but we would go to the zoo and it was half of what it is, but it was still spectacular then. And so the vision of what the park board and the directors of the past and current have had for the zoo has been obviously very it's just been amazing to see what one can envision in an environment of a truly small space. I mean, it is large, but it's just a very landlocked piece of land that you can put and stuff so many interesting exhibits into an environment like that. And Fort Wayne is putting in new entrance off of Goshen Road, so that will be even more exciting to see how people coming in off of 69 and 33 and 30 into Fort Wayne coming in that direction and what that's going to bring. But yeah, it's I love the zoo. There's always a new exhibit, and it's just want to go see the animals.
Yeah,
Makes you happy.
So pro tip for anyone who has not visited our zoo, my favorite thing at the zoo, besides the big cats, because I'm a cat girl, the Australian log ride where you float through the path and you go through the kangaroos. It is like the most peaceful 10 minutes. I told the executive director of the zoo, I wish I could have all of my staff meetings on the log ride and we could just float around and look at kangaroos and solve all the world's problems.
I'm going to assume that your staff would say if staff meetings could only be 10 minutes long,
Exactly.
they would be happy about that.
Exactly. So you grew up in Allen County, correct?
No, I did
No,
not.
okay.
No, I did not. I'm Michigan born.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
When did you come to Allen County?
Well, that's a good story.
Okay.
We moved here originally in probably 1962. Of course, I was 2. I don't remember. And my father worked for NCR Corporation, which is another affiliate, if you would, not affiliate, but put it in the same vein as IBM and all of those types of computer system organizations and things. And so we moved around the Midwest, and we came back in 1974. So there was a gap, 62 to 74, and then in 74, back to Fort Wayne, and went 2 years to Lures, 2 years to Dwenger. So I graduated from Bishop Dwenger High School.
So you mentioned that you attended Bishop Dwenger, graduated from there. What advice would you give their class of 2025?
What would that be? I guess I would be hopeful. Be proud, be hopeful. Always remember that life has its challenges. I mean, we're in a time where people would say we've never been here before. Oh, the horror of a lot of things. But, it's just humanity, and we need to roll with it, and we need to work on making life or the world a better place. So be hopeful. I think that would be what I would suggest.
So let's think about teenage Therese.
Oh, no.
Would teenage Therese think that she would grow up and run successfully for public office?
Wouldn't have even remotely been on the radar.
Really?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought about being a lawyer once, and that would be something that would be interesting. But, sometimes we suck into TV shows and we think this is all going to be glamorous. And then what happens when you think the person's guilty? It just wasn't going to happen. But I really did have a true interest in government, high school government classes, the structure of government, history from, the beginning, not just of the country, but the beginning of, the Roman Empire and just, all the different structures that were out there. So it was interesting when I got the opportunity to work for the county. It was like, well, okay, it's functions that you have to perform, but then once you start performing them and then you start mastering them, you start wanting more, and I wanted more. So just an open vessel, just show me and teach me, and so it was an interesting transition, but totally enjoyed all of it, truly enjoy it.
So we're talking about early memories and early experiences, and since we are in the beautiful Allen County Public Library,
Yes, ma'am.
I have to ask you, do you have any early library experiences? Were there any books you read or had read to you as a child that had an impact?
Oh, I love the Velveteen Rabbit.
Oh. That's amazing.
I mean, it's just the story of just aging and, at where we're needed and when we're not needed anymore and where we fit in people's lives and hearts and everything. And that even if you're worn out, wink, wink, nod, nod, you're still special. That story has always stuck with me. Periodically pops up, but yeah, love it.
Are there certain books that you love to read to your kids growing up?
Well, my kids like the Smurfs, so so
Who doesn't? Yeah.
we read the Smurfs, a lot of that kind of stuff. But my youngest was an English major, so he is very, very intent about reading a sundry of things. But you wouldn't read Alfred Hitchcock, and you wouldn't read The Fall of the House of Usher, but Edgar Allan Poe was a very good one for me. I loved Edgar Allan Poe, but he's now into that. But that's what sticks with me.
Well, we have had an amazing conversation, and thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your stories. So for our final question today, we are going to have a reoccurring segment on Open Book with Susan Baier, and it's called Tail End with Toonces. And for those of you who might not know, I have a Russian blue adopted cat, 13 years old, named Toonces. His namesake is Toonces the Driving Cat from Saturday Night Live fame. And he is gray, and he is furry, and he is very, very opinionated. So he is going to have a question that we'll ask for every show. We have been talking about the Allen County Bicentennial and the past and where we've been. Let's think about where we're going. When you look at Allen County 25 years from now, what's the vision you would like to see?
I would like to see a community that truly works collaboratively together. Not that we don't, but really looks at it as something that's very instinctive. That it's like the first reaction you have when you think of Allen County, that this is a community that works together, that plays together, that gets along with each other, that doesn't hold grudges long. We work through our issues, and we just become a really great hub of a lot of good community activism and good community stewardship.
I like the sound of that. Well, thank you again so much for being here. And thank you so much for watching Open Book with Susan Baier. Until next time, keep turning those pages.